I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, a republic, not democracy. The Pledge of Allegiance proclaims that we are a republic, informing people that we are a republic and not a democracy, and the difference between the two is very important. What we are witnessing is the overreach that democracies take in the pandemic shutdown, violating the principles of a republican form of government. In our republic, government is not allowed to limit freedom for any reason. It may give advice as to how to deal with something, but not force our people to do things in violation of the Constitution and our Bill of Rights. Let's quote John Adams, our second president, on democracy. In a letter to John Taylor in 1814, he said, quote, "Democracy never lasts long. It soon wastes, exhausts, and murders itself. There never was a democracy yet that did not commit suicide." Obviously, Karl Marx knew this. Since 34 years later, in the Communist Manifesto, he said that the communists needed to win the battle for democracy. In other words, to establish democracies. The communists know that democracies die and can be replaced by a dictatorship after the people have been fooled into allowing things that not only destroy their country, but cause the people to come under authoritarian rule. What we are witnessing in the controls imposed by Marxist leaders around the country during this pandemic is democracy in action, the majority allowing these leaders to get away with imposing rules and edicts that have no basis in law, and, according to increasing numbers of doctors, have no basis in science either. For the first time in history, we've allowed the government to quarantine those who are well, rather than those who are sick with a contagious disease. The Hippocratic Oath, taken by doctors, says, first, do no harm. The shutdown has done immeasurable harm across the board. Too many doctors have gone along with this shutdown, but there are more and more doctors coming forward who say the shutdown is actually doing more harm. The point is, as long as the government can convince or coerce the majority of its actions, it builds democracy in action, which will ultimately lead to the destruction of our republic, because those in authority are not adhering to the Constitution. Now, we grieve for those who suffer from the disease and have died from it. But there are those who have not been counted that have died as a result of not receiving other treatments because they could not get to a doctor or the hospital was shut down partially or completely. And there are other situations which have caused deaths and harm and will continue into the future due to the lack of concern about anything but the Wuhan virus. New York particularly has turned into a terrible situation on the streets, in the subways, even where dead bodies have been piled up and not removed for internment, the threats against Jews and Christians gathering, and more. We need to inform people continually, now and into the future, that we are a republic and not a democracy, and the need to keep it that way. If we do not, more and more people will simply obey unconstitutional edicts to the point where we will lose our freedom permanently out of the ignorance of the majority, slipping into democracy and then tyranny. Now, when I was in school, I was taught that there's no difference between a republic and a democracy. It was simply a matter of which word you preferred to use. I wish I had known at the time what the difference was, but it probably wouldn't have set so well with the teacher to have corrected him. My teachers hated it when I raised my hand. The democracy on display in New York is precisely what John Adams warned us about and Karl Marx welcomed in order to finally impose a communist state. The Marxists in power, the media, academia, etc., are well organized and know how to persuade the people if they are ignorant. They know through experience that they can build communism as a result of first having a democracy with which to sway the people into supplying their own chains. They cannot sway those who understand the principles on which this country was founded. They cannot impose draconian government on people who understand the difference between a republic and a democracy and an adherence to the real law, not something made up as they go along. Our founders knew the value of educating the people. George Washington said, "Truth will ultimately prevail where pains is taken to bring it to light." Thomas Jefferson said, "I know of no safe depository of the ultimate powers of society but the people themselves. And if we think them not enlightened enough to exercise their control with a wholesome discretion, the remedy is to inform their discretion by education. This is the true corrective of the abuses of constitutional power." We must take these lessons of our founders and apply them to today, and educate as many people as we can about the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and the difference between a republic and a democracy. Now, we have materials you can use to do this. You may order Republics and Democracies in bulk. The price is very low. Go to shopjbs.org for this short treatise. Have your chapters order in bulk and split them up among yourselves to give out to all of your contacts, and then urge them to do as well once they've read it. This small treatise has gone a long way in getting millions of people to understand our Republican form of government. Millions more need to know. Republics and Democracies. Your friend will never be the same after reading it.